All right, round two. Now, last time I said we're going to get into the biblical. But before, I have one more corner of this stone to round up and chip away at. We'll start with three topics. One is jobs and relationships and how they correlate. And no pun intended, but yes, with jobs and relationships, it always seems like individuals out there may have to take what they can get rather than what they want unless they apply themselves to work up toward getting a better career. Okay, so other than that part, we'll also discuss unfair disadvantages of safeguards and status. And then also the foundation for a house, discussing levels of attractiveness versus unattractiveness. So, with jobs and relationships and how they correlate, there is a flip coin to where they are related. Because in social and economic community status, even globally, the markets for these things, okay, is not the same as like a crypto market or a stock market. It's totally different. Totally different. It goes by human evaluation, supposedly, until they use machines, robots, computers, and AI, etc. But some people have good skill sets, but that doesn't always get them approved for the job. And then there's some people with higher IQ or lower IQ for, specific areas that whatever they want to deem them in. But that doesn't, what I'm trying to figure out, are they ever going to apply desire? See, now I don't know who come up with this whole situation where a lot of people get jobs, and I believe, in my opinion, relationships that they really don't want to be in or with that individual, but they just get stuck with them, have to, settle for less or whatever. But the thing is that desire is a very, very strong motivation and driving force. Someone has a passion for something, I believe they will be better at it, whether it's their job or their relationship. The person they're with, if they're really passionate, they will love them more than anybody else could ever love them. Same way with a job. If you really appreciate your job, like you enjoy what you do, it's been your passion since childhood, okay? To be a firefighter, a cop, a surgeon, a pharmacist, a doctor, a preacher, whatever. It does not matter what trade, craft, or skill. If you really love what you do, even if you're not the best at it, you're going to apply yourself to learn more about it and to apply yourself to become more skillful and better at it. Believe me, I know. I wanted to go to college to become a welder, and it was not my entire dream to weld, but then I wanted to use the metallurgical skills to improve and enhance from what I learned from smelting metals, working with a little bit of homemade jewelry, and blacksmithing. And it did improve some skills by intertwining them. And but yes, jobs and relationships, they do. And I'm gonna go ahead and share this about the relationships. Say there's a feller and he gets with a woman that's way out of his league. Okay, he's going, especially if he's really honed to having senses about these things and a real deep intuition. He's going to notice, hey, you know what? This woman's with me. I need to improve things because I need to better myself in some ways. It isn't like she just chose him or he chose her, for just the way they are. Because let's be honest, nobody really acts the way they really, really want to. Because if you acted the way you really, really want to, guess what? A lot of humans would break the law system. Okay? I'm sure a lot of people's been mad, wanted to take their frustrations out, but they know the law system would not allow you to become physical. Okay? There's a lot of people that want to be millionaires. And there's a lot of thieves on this planet. But, if everybody went and stole money, they would end up in jail for stealing money. So, a lot of people truly are not themselves. Okay? Because the planet would burn to ashes if everybody was themselves. So, when it comes to jobs and relationships, to conclude that little short segment, there is a strong relation with that, because a person should pursue what they're passionate. Okay. But you do have to keep realistic expectations in mind and in your heart. Your focus has to be, one step at a time. And that's where the foundation I'm going to talk about comes into play. So, a foundation for a house. All right. You have a foundation, as I had already, that keeps the structure of the house from crumbling, okay? All right. And we'll just kind of make it like a little barn. Have little windows. I'm not being artistic right now. Anyway, so into the dating market, you have levels of attractiveness, okay, versus unattractiveness, okay? Now, what this means is that, now we're not going in very microscopic, real fine-tuned observation here. I'm just going to the simple basics. So let's say a man moves to an area, okay? He would have to move to an area, okay, where there is women that's attracted to him. They're reciprocating attraction to him, okay? Of course, he would be attracted to females, okay? He's heterosexual. But the main objective really is to see what he can get away with the women that are unattractive to him, because they're usually probably going to be in a higher league. All right. Now, all men and all women cannot be a 10. Okay. I don't like grading people by numbers. Okay. Not that way. Productivity, financial status, and all that has nothing to do with the character, the heart, the mind, the spirit, or even the soul of a person. So, a man moves to an area where there is a balance, where there's women that's attracted to him. Okay, he has to know this for a foundation of a house. Okay, his goal is to find a balance, because a lot of people get in relationships. It's usually a one-way street, but it's supposed to be a two-way street. You can't have one person giving into the relationship more than the other. Okay, like I see so many dudes is like fall in love with women, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, my heart broke. I never thought she would." Yet you didn't invest enough time to get to know how this individual is. Okay, this is deeper than psychology. This is deeper than sociology. This is going even further, but like I said, we're not going to microscope it. So, a man moves to a different town, region, area, whatever the case, even country or whatever, different state, if you live in the United States. So, a man finds an area where there's women that are attracted to him and women that are unattractive. Okay, this is good fertile ground. You don't want to move to an area where women are all unattracted to you, and you don't want to move to an area where all the women are attracted to you. Okay, not saying it exists or don't exist, either way. All we're saying hypothetically here is that if you move to an area where there's a 50-50 split, okay, it could be a 40-60 or a 60-40, whichever way you want to cut it. Long as it's pretty close to middle. What you want to do is you want to see between the women that's attracted to you and the women that's unattracted to you, which ones are you attracted to? Now, when we mean attractive, we don't mean just by pure physical outward looks alone. We're talking about, do you like their sense of humor? Do you like their character? Are you compatible? Do you both like the same kind of music? Are you both art or movie buffs? All these things need to come into the equation, because you don't want to get into a relationship and as time goes on, it's the most miserable, dreadful. You wish you had the finances to get out of it and get divorced, but you're kind of scared because you don't know. And I know, and I've heard there's been ladies out there that said before, well, I would have got divorced from my husband years ago, but I didn't have the finances to do it. Or like there might have been some men out there saying, yeah, I would have left her years ago, but I had to deal with child support or alimony. See, this is why none of this should even, we're not getting to that. But so a relationship is a serious business because it is a part of the economy, the global economy as well, not just your local community and social economy. All nations across the board, people has to get with a program or it's not going to work. Okay, so when it comes to relationships, now we're talking about just a man and woman heterosexual relationship, not going into anything else. Okay, the foundation has to be structured. And in order to get to that way, first you have to look at the unfair disadvantages of safeguards and status. Now, this has to do with, like, you have the poor class up to the middle class, okay, up to the high class, up to the elite. All right. The problem with this staircase, this pyramid scheme that divides the society, okay, is that a man down here has trouble usually with women up here, okay, because this man down here does not have the finances to begin with, which is totally immoral for anybody to use finances for a relationship. But he does not have the finances, okay? Now, the safeguard, before we go into this, and the foundation that we'll get back to, the safeguards and the statuses of classes is that, let's say you take a high class female, okay? Her daddy gets her a sports car for graduation. He sends her to college. She doesn't know what it's like not to have a minted pair of shoes in her closet still in the box, probably with tags on them. Probably dresses name brand clothing. Like back in my day, it was, people wore Nikes, Reebok, they wore, Abercrombie Finch, whatever the case. But if you was a poor person, okay, you might wear the dollar store, Walmart, or you might go to Goodwill, or or somebody gave you out of the goodness of their heart a hand-me-down. Now the problem, like I'm saying, is dividing these relationships here is that, see, Adam and Eve at the beginning was in the garden, okay, but actually they was elite. Now we'll get to that part later. But they started off in the garden. All human beings and their genetic ancestors did not have a treasure trove of gold, okay? They did not have palaces and castles. They started off in the garden, okay? And then, like the science buffs out there, yeah, there probably was people that lived in caves and went ooga booga behind a fire, okay? Your Neanderthals, etc. Okay, but we'll get to that later. Because in the animal kingdom, I don't even think financial status exists. But okay. So you have people that are, let's just say it for what it is. Between these three groups especially, you have a thing called spoiled. Okay? Spoiled. Where materialism is more heavy than morality or spiritualism. Okay? Jesus said in the Gospels, beware of covetous, for a man's life consisteth not of the abundance of his possessions. Now, does churches preach this today? I really wish they would. But that's between them and the salvation, if they obtain any through God. Now, when Christ came, he came for the poor of this world, for the lost sheep of Israel. He came to die and shed his blood for a world that was on its way, and still to this day on its way to a very demented place in the afterlife. But anybody who wants to understand, I believe they can. So there may be celebrities throughout history, you know, that has dated uh, down, such as, say, for instance, a male celebrity who has married a fan, okay, rather than marrying another celebrity or a rich billionaire. So I think males go by more so a little bit of different spheres and realms of the relationship qualities. But overall, both males and females have their blame. And we'll get to that part too. But this right here, I just wanted to go over. When you have a spoiled household where there's nothing that this man over here can do, okay? He could be the nicest, okay? Wanting to provide and things mean something and really pour out his life stream into his family that he could have, okay? His wife and children. But this is totally non existent, okay? Not. Because these classes, especially these two, is only concerned with the thin paper layer of the outside materialistic things, okay? For some reason. And I say it like that because I want you, the viewer, to really contemplate and do the thinking and figuring out on these puzzles of equation, okay? You know the answer, or you will know the answer if you want to know the answer, okay? But we'll move on to another topic and the videos and get into, like I said, the biblical parts of a structured home and how it's supposed to be according to the Bible, okay? So I've said my part as neatly and clear as possible without throwing a fit, okay? Thank you for watching.